Welcome to the River City Unlimited podcast by powerlifting coaches with infinite solutions for your problems. A good coach is ubiquitous now in powerlifting and strength training, but that hasn't always been the case. In 2017, River City founder trained in a well-known powerlifting gym in North Brisbane, Australia. Dealing with outdated coaching services with a need for more community or support, he sought out a new coach with a better system and support. He soon realized that there were fewer coaches in powerlifting to meet the demands of beginner to high-level competitive powerlifters. After spending months studying, designing, trialing and testing systems, River City Barbell and its first coaching system were born. Created from a single powerlifter experience with an intention to improve the athlete experience, the unique system meant athletes could reach maximum strength injury-free. 6 years on, and River City Barbell System is still relied on by elite and amateur athletes. Please welcome your hosts, Matt Burton and Deyana Stuebner.
Well, we're back here again, round two. This is the intro of the potty still, kicking it. River City Unlimited, where we just like to talk about training ourselves and just things we really enjoy, I guess. Infinite solutions for all your problems. So today's episode, obviously last one we spoke about was my history, my story. This time we're going to give everyone a bit of insight of D, a solid hour of D. So,
ooh, spicy.
Yeah. So, D has very interesting, you could say, history from her story. A huge powerlifting career also. Been powerlifting for a long time, haven't you? And a little bit. Achieved a lot in that time, so I think a lot of people find Dee's story interesting. So, do you want to start us off from where you started as a kid? Maybe, I don't know, just kick us from where you want to start off from. Just probably start off with a little bit of who you are, where you come from type.
Like how I started as a kid, where I come from, born and stuff. Okay, yeah, all right. Going way back when. So I was originally born in Melbourne. Lived down there for a little bit as a kid, sort of moved around quite a bit and went through a fair bit of stuff down there before moving up here to Queensland when I was probably about 6 or 7. Then sort of just bounced around the Gold Coast a little bit and then all around Logan since then. Moved about 40 times in my life, so, But, yeah.
Do you want to go into a bit of insight about, where you started as a kid, the things you've been through and up until this point? Probably a bit more of, what you want to talk about and just a basic breakdown of your childhood and maybe so people can understand who you are and why you are who you are today.
Yeah, for sure. Pretty transparent person, so pretty sure, pretty cool to share it all really. Being born in Melbourne, growing up as a kid with my brother and sister. There's 6 of us altogether. We got the top older 3 and then there was a 10-year gap and then there's the next 3. Only one boy amongst that all, so unlucky him. His story is another one on its own, as you can imagine. So growing up in Melbourne, just growing up with mum as a single mum and going through a lot of stuff with her, trying to find her purpose in life amongst it all, and with her life experiences being pretty hectic herself from birth. Just grew up with a lot of domestic violence around us a lot, always, I suppose, moved house a lot, went to lots of different schools, lots of different sort of male figures around, I suppose, with lots of violence with that, with mum. We ended up in living in a few different hostels with mum trying to get away from some pretty bad situations. And then jumping up a little bit, I suppose, just before we moved up to Queensland, we were living in foster home for a little bit there while mum sort of made her escape plan and moved up here first, and then us kids. So my brother was in a different one, and then me and my sister was on another one, and we would go and see him on the weekends.
Do you remember back then? Like, do you remember, is that a vivid memory of, like, your life, or do you, like, so for example, if I mention, like, you being in a foster home, is that your remembering of being there, but just because you've been told, or is it a memory of, like, you have flashbacks of, like...
No, I remember it, yeah, like, my foster parents were names Luke and Deyana. They were pretty cool. So we were there full time, and then occasionally some other kids would come, like on a weekend. And it was just a lot of fun, really. I guess it was probably the environment that kids are normally in. So it's just lots of fun. And
it was something you probably haven't experienced until you were there.
Yeah, not so much, I guess. Like, yeah, I don't know. You just don't really know the difference sometimes until you see it, I guess. But I don't know. So many scattered thoughts around that. But like, yeah, I just remember it being really fun. We'd go and do lots of things, lots of craft, and they had a computer there and things like that. And it was really like family orientated and really stable. So I guess that's where the biggest difference was. It was a super stable position. And yeah, I just remember it being fun, basically. So it's really cool, good memory, I guess.
To relate back to that, I can why I asked you that was because when I was a kid, I remember growing up and thinking, like, this is my family life, this is normal, this is what everyone goes through. And then when I got older and I used to go to the pub with my friends and their dads would be having a beer with their son, and they'd be having fun, joking around, and be like, okay, well, now I don't see what I had to be normal, because what is normal is what my friends had with their dad.
Gives you a different perspective.
And I was like, whoa, like, I've been living in this, like, illusion that this was life and this is what everybody got up to. Like, that's why I asked you, like, did you pick up on, like, whether it was normal or not? How do you think that experience in your life, like going into a foster home and coming out and then going back with your mum, influenced your life today? Do you think it made you appreciate, like, some of the things that as you grew up older?
I guess. I don't know if I've really thought about how the foster home in itself has reflected on my life. I'm sure it did in one way or another, but I guess I've settled with it being a good memory, and I think I've settled with it being that it was the best for us at that point. So I don't have any sort of hard feelings around having been put in that.
Yeah.
And my mum put us in there herself.
For safety.
She didn't. The government didn't take us off her, which I have not long ago mentioned it to her actually, and she said that she thought about it quite a lot at that point, because when the government takes you, you have to go through loops and bounds to get your kids back, and so many things depending what's involved as well, and it's much harder. Whereas if you put your children in there on your own choice for a safe thing, you can take them back when you want to.
Yeah.
And she thought about that, and she made that choice, so she could get us back, and that was her plan. So yeah, I guess I look at it as, okay, well, she just did her best at that point.
She was trying to keep you guys safe.
Yeah. After mum moved up here and somewhat got settled, there was still quite a lot of, still went through a lot of stuff moving up here, but we met mum up here. We got on the plane, us three kids together. Our first time on the plane was by ourselves. But anyway.
How old were you there?
Yeah, I was about 7, I think. And there's 2 years between. Oh, my brother's 2 years older than me. My sister's 18 months younger. So us three off on the jet plane. No. But yeah, so we come up, and yeah, I think the first place we moved to was Burleigh Heads. Lived down there for a little bit and bounced around with mum on the beaches down there at the hippie festivals at night time with the fire throwing, and slept on the beach and stuff, and moved around a few houses down there as well. Spent a bit of time hanging out the front of the pub while Mum was inside, and we were just waiting for her to finish.
How do you think that that style of living impacted your life? Like seeing the things that your mum went through and watching that unfold as a kid. How do you think that impacted you to be a mother today? Because obviously you're a mother of two.
Yep. Basically, through all the experiences I've gone through, I suppose I've just taken you just learn what you don't want to do, basically, and as I've grown up and, like you did, see what other people go through or don't go through, and you're like, all right, well, that's probably not the best idea. But at the same time, I always just think about, like, what would my mum been going through and stuff like that. So I'm probably I'm one of the only kids, I am the only kid that hasn't, like, dismissed my mum ever in her life. Like, I haven't stopped talking to her or anything, because I always try to think about, like, what she is going through, because she's had such a rough life. So amongst it all, like, when it sounds all pretty full on, I'm like, oh, yeah, she was just trying to keep her head up somehow and find all this, I don't know, a bit soft. But, it's definitely interesting when you're sitting out the front of the pub there waiting, and, like, the bartenders come giving you chips and stuff to share and things like that before heading home. But
I can relate to that a lot too, but because, like, growing up as a kid, my dad was a football coach, and, like, every Sunday we used to go to football, and us kids would go play, ride our bikes, or I'd get my skateboard and go. There was, like, a old tennis court down the road, and I'd just go skate on that. It's actually the skate park now, which we drove past when we went to my old town.
Yeah.
That used to be a tennis court, and that oval there was, like, the footy. My dad used to coach the first grade team. So we'd go up there every Sunday, or if it was away, wherever we went, and they'd all do that. And then the first thing they would do, just go to the pub afterwards and drink. And it's like us kids just got stuck out in the back in the play area or whatever, doing whatever, while my dad got wasted with his fucking mates. Like, and that was what life was like as a kid with me as well.
Yeah.
So I understand that completely.
Yeah, for sure. And, like, I guess at the time, you just think it's just what it is. You grow wiser to be like, okay,
I look back on it
Bob's
now,
gonna do that.
and I'm like, that's why I don't drink, because I don't want to be around that shit.
Yeah.
And I think, like, when you go back to the kids situation too and talk about, like, as a child growing up and you're looking back on how you treat your kids now, I think that, like, to this point now, one of the reasons why I probably never had kids younger was probably because I don't want to do what my dad did or be, like, a reflection of my father. So, like, it kind of scares me to have kids of my own because I don't want to be a mistake like my father was with me.
Yeah, for sure, which is a natural thing to think, and especially, like, as much as you can be as strong-willed and, like, things as you are, you'd have that background thought that's always like, am I just going to portray that without knowing? And then it's just like, can't undo it. And then, you just feel it's a spiral of things. So it's just like, I'll just not do that. But, so, and, bounced around the Gold Coast a little bit as well. Still quite, lots of male figures around. And lots of violence still, of course. And then, ended up in Logan eventually after a few years down on the Gold Coast, moved up to Logan, and then we ended up having, like, probably the most stability that I've think we've had, which was, like, 10 years in the one house in Woodridge. Yeah.
In the ghetto.
Of all places, we settled there. I guess it was probably more affordable position as well as a single mum as well. So I went to few schools around Logan, ended up doing high school at Woodridge High School, finished high school at, like, a adult centre, just because kind of had to grow up a bit fast as a kid. So, the normal schooling system was all right, but I don't know, I just didn't like getting treated like a kid at the same time. So I just never stopped going to school. I just pulled myself out there and just went to one that felt more suitable. I could just, not getting shit for having a drink of water or... stuff, little things that I was just like, seriously. So, you do it good, Carl. I was also kept down a grade when I moved up from Melbourne, so I actually finished at the right age as well.
Oh, true.
I didn't get like that formal and like the formal you get at high school and stuff like that, but that's
What's that?
Yeah. I ended up going to one with some friends that I used to work with from Macca's anyway, so I got that little bit of an experience. But yeah, again, like still quite a lot of like just heaps of violence all the time around. And then of course living in Woodridge, like there's quite a lot of things around there that probably people shouldn't get involved with and stuff like that. Like my brother went through heaps of physical violence with like street fighting and stuff like that. He copped a lot of the backlash just being a boy amongst the sort of male figures that are around home as well, and you know, us girls sort of just sat like we just saw it all, of course. Yeah, lots of
Obviously,
yelling and screaming and
obviously, like I've met everybody in your family, well, like Alicia and Dom, and you can see the different personalities in how that childhood and growing up and being in that like influenced each of you individually
yeah.
very differently. Like I look at like Dom, and he's like someone that's like really like he could have like I could see him having anxiety, but also being like someone that's really like won't take shit from people. Like
Oh yeah.
he won't take shit from someone. He's really hard shelled and would like stick up for himself over anything. And then you see like you're very reserved and you internalize things. You're very much like me. Like you absorb what people do, you resolve, and then you kind of move forward and talk about it.
Yeah.
Whereas like Alicia is very high, like strung, very like anxious and like that type of stuff. And I don't mean like in any sort of
No, just
way
a
either
reflection.
of them
Yeah.
like are bad at all, but you can just see how like so many people can be in one situation and it can affect people so individually different.
Yeah, it's really interesting how like people can grow up in the same household and everyone come out so differently and also interpret it all so differently.
Yeah.
Like if you were to sit here and talk to my brothers and sisters, like they would have this different version perhaps, and like, you know, based on like the way that I've taken everything in, and I've been an internalizer, and I was like the middle child of the three as well, which is a thing, you know, that middle child syndrome. It's a real thing.
Oh,
Psychology has told me, you know.
It is. My sister, there was me, my older sister, and then my middle sister. Me and my older sister copped the wrath for everything, and my middle sister was like an angel.
Yeah. I wouldn't say I didn't cop the wrath, except, you know, we were all in it. I definitely think my brother copped it all the most because, again, like being just the boy, with the male dominance in the house a lot. But I did just like sort of, I was a very quiet one, and I just always grew up thinking that I was just shy, but I've come to realise that I was introverted and internalizing and everything back then. But that's only been like a pretty new realisation that I was more introverted rather than just shy.
But
and the way I took it all in, I would just sit and watch, and I'm a very big people watcher, and I'll just sit and watch and I just soak everything up, and then I like, it's like a process, and then I don't talk about it, I just sort of, and then I don't know. But because of that, my sisters and my brothers might have seen me as, because I sort of take things and do it differently than they did, and like mum did, which is a bit more like expressive and explosive. They sort of see it as me coming out unscathed in a sense of mental health and whatnot, which I understand in that view because it's a different, different reaction, but
different perspective as well.
Yeah.
But
then that's
like,
what I mean. Everyone just comes out different, hey?
Yeah, I get that, and it's like, but that's the same in my family as well. Like, if I relate back to like my family, I'm not trying to change the story back to me because I've already told my story, but it's how I relate to it.
Yeah, of course.
And my older sister as well, high anxiety, got bipolar, drug-induced psychosis from like abusing drugs, whereas like I was an internalizer and very angry, but like no one would have knew about it until someone pushed the wrong button, and then I could blast like.
Yeah, for sure.
So like I was really internalized. I just bury everything.
Yeah.
And then my middle sister is just like, well, like dead set. like nothing ever happened. Like there was like nothing ever went wrong in our household. Like she was just like a fairy just floating around in the house. Like la 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 la, we live in like fucking la la land. Like dead set. Like nothing ever happened. And I just don't know if it's because like the hardest thing that ever happened to her was that she had to eat a cake of soap because she said the word fuck. And that's all that, like literally through my childhood, that's the only bad thing I can think that she ever copped.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Do you reckon you probably copped it worse because you're a boy too, like the only?
No, I actually had it pretty easy. It's just my dad copped it. I copped it more from the age of 16 to 20 with mental, like there was physical abuse, but it was more mental, like what I do is not good enough because I didn't follow in his footsteps.
Yeah.
So it was like I had a lot of pressure to be more of what he wanted me to be than what I wanted to be.
Yeah, and that's that old school way of things because you're the boy as well, though.
Yeah.
Do you think so?
Yeah,
like in that
sure.
respect, like he's expecting more of you because you're meant to be the man, and be that after him, the man of the house kind of thing. They had that really old school sort of reflection and expectation amongst the girls.
Yeah, for sure. But by that point, I was already fucked.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I was already fried. Like I wouldn't even say like fried. In other words, like fried from doing something wrong. But my brain was already cooked.
Yeah.
Like I was already on my way to like nowhere because like of all the anger in our household, like physical abuse and all that type of stuff. So it's like all his like mental psychotic like twists and stuff and like I think it was like I don't know if you caught this, but like my dad used to say to me all the time, be like, he'd give me shit about something that I did, but like he was joking, but it was his sarcastic way of like saying, so it was like belittling me.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't do it by myself. It always when someone was around. So it made me feel like shit. So the older I got, the more he did that. Like it was more the hate. I built like this hate towards him more and more. And I minimized my talking to him more and more. And then at 24, he did something and I just cut the cord. And I just never spoke to him again. Yeah. So, but that's the thing. Like, I think mental abuse like that is way worse. I'd rather get punched in the face any day. Like,
yeah. So, like, interesting to think that some people don't think that emotional abuse and all that sort of stuff is real or if it's significant in comparison to physical. But I feel like it plays such a bigger toll, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a lot of that sort of stuff in my household too, like with, mum trying to find her happiness amongst it all or whatever was going on there. Like, she was, pretty intense and always losing her mind quite a lot, as well as like trying to make ends meet all the time. Like, managed to buy a house in Woodbridge. She got granted this like single parents loan thing. Nearly had a heart attack when she got approved for that. Anyway, so she, she was always trying, but it was just real rough road around amongst it all. But still to this day, I just see it as like, I've had my thoughts around it all, but I still think it as like, she tried. She did try. But this is just what happened, basically.
Yeah, sometimes people
she
try
really
and they
did try, yeah.
But you know what? Your mum tried, and she says all the time that she tried to do what the best she could do, and she lets you know that.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, my dad won't even say sorry; he'll just act like nothing happened. So
yeah, there's a different angle to that too
so
with my mum, as you would know.
Yeah, for sure. But in the sense of that, like, I won't talk to him till he says sorry, and he'll never say sorry, so I won't talk to him again.
Yeah, which is my mum and brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, growing up, mum would she's always used substances for a Band-Aid as well, and lots of antidepressants for as long. Like, I think she's been on antidepressants as long as I've known her. And there's been times I saw her without them, and she definitely needs them. Just don't not have them. But at least it's out there, I suppose, to help. But plus, yeah, just other substances to help with things, and like alcohol and stuff as well, which, growing up, seeing as a child, always seeing my mum stressing and crying and like losing it over needing money to make things meet, and then she would go and buy cigarettes and alcohol. To me, I'm just like, as a young kid, maybe 10 years old, I was like, that doesn't make sense. Like, and I would kind of get really upset and get angry at her because, you know, she was putting so much pressure and stress on us kids, putting all the emotional baggage on us. Like, that's why we had to grow up fast, you know, like, she would put that all on us from a young age, and then she would go and buy that stuff, and I'm just like, that costs so much money. Like, what do you mean? Like, you're putting all this on us, we can't do anything about it. You're crying all the time, making us feel bad. That's not her intention, but that's her release. She's just, you know, breaking down all the time. And then she'd go and do that stuff, and I just was like, that stuck with me, you know, like, I think that might be a part of why I'm not a big drinker. I definitely had my days where I was partying and stuff when I was a teenager and all that, but I've never been addicted to anything. I don't smoke, I hardly drink, like, I've never been addicted to anything except for gym, if you could say that. People would say that can't commit to themselves, but yeah, so lots of those influences at home definitely came through with me. And then, yeah, like amongst it all, I'd always keep pretty calm as well, like in the sense of the way I deal with things too. And like you said, you would just hold everything in, and then like at some point you sort of just like let it all out. Like,
I think with me, it'd be like I would hold it all in, and then someone would do the littlest thing wrong to me, and then I'd just go, fuck it, you're going to cop everything from everybody. Like, yeah. So like whether it'd be my family member or whether it'd be a friend or whatever, but like, yeah, that's how it pretty much worked for me. I just would like lose my fucking shit at someone for it.
Well, I'll just take a lot of stuff. Like I have a pretty high threshold, I think, with what I handle before I would reach these points in sort of being like, nah, that's enough. But so like growing up as we were getting older, and we would get smacked, and you know, we would get in trouble if we didn't clean the house well enough, or if we lied. Oh my God. So we would get knelt up against the wall on our hands and knees. Hands up against the wall, knees against the wall, facing the wall, down the hallway, lined up.
Sounds like fucking something that fucking like Hitler would do. It's like literally like.
So we'd get lined up, and then we get the metal studded belt on the ass, and then I'll just have to stay there, keep our arms up, don't let your arms down until she says.
Get smacked again.
Yeah. So that would be a thing. But, you know, my mum, she copped that too with her and her 7 siblings. But they copped the cat of 9 tails. So when I process that now, I think, oh, she must think because it wasn't as bad as hers. Maybe it's not that bad. But I don't know anyone else that had that.
I used to get hit with a belt buckle. Yeah. Like my dad would bring belt out and flog me with the end, like the thick end with the belt buckle on it. Yeah. And fucking chase me around the house with it. But you know, I got to a point where he chased me, and then I chased him back.
Just picturing him in, like, stuff these turnarounds that run at him.
It was about 15. I just got like too big. I was bigger than him. Oh. And then he was like, I'm like, you want to fight me? I'll fight you back. Yeah. So
yeah.
That's when it got real bad in our household. But like my mum had to call the police at certain stages and shit because we would like full pace blow, like punch the shit out of each other. Yeah.
But yeah, we're just like, I'll be cooking for the whole family from like 10 years old, you know, and like scrubbing the house. We had to spring clean the house every weekend, every Saturday before we're allowed to do anything. And like, as in like toothbrushes in the side skirts of the sliding doors and stuff. Use like a screwdriver to push a cloth in there to clean it. Mowing the lawns, like didn't have a whippersnipper, so we just use like a shovel and just like scrape the edges or like jump on the end to make it good. This is all from, we're pretty young, so it's all we knew, I guess. But, you know, Mum was by herself, so she needed help, so it was just like, just what it was. And then, I don't know.
Got a question about you.
Yeah.
Where was your dad through all this?
Yeah, so he's in Melbourne. Last time I saw my dad was when I was 4 years old before we moved up here. I do have some memories around our life with him before we moved. And, you know, there was a lot of arguing with Mum and him about him taking us kids. Like, he didn't want to take all 3 of us at once. So it was too hard. And then he had another girlfriend and she had kids, so it was just all too much. So they'll be arguing in the footpath about it and stuff like that. And then Dad was still living at his parents till like mid-30s, high 30s maybe or something. So sometimes we'd go there, and then I just remember like he had this little bungalow thing at the back, and like a single bed in this like bungalow thing in Ascot Vale in Melbourne. His parents still live there. It's pretty cool. And yeah, there'll be all three of us kids and him on the same bed. But back then Dad was alcoholic, so I remember falling off the bed and there's all these bottles under the bed, all these empty alcohol bottles, but didn't like say anything because, you know, whatever, it's just a kid. And I think he got in some trouble with the police and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't want to say too much because I don't know exacts around that part. It's obviously just like Mum's story, I guess, but kind of like stole Mum's van and ran over a policeman's foot or something like that. But yeah, anyway, so around all the alcohol stuff and not wanting to help Mum out with paying for anything and always arguing about having us kids and no help at all, like, yeah, that didn't work out. So I remember getting pretty upset about that actually when we were living in Queensland. I think I was living in Queensland. I would cry about missing my dad, which is pretty interesting because I don't feel like I have had that big of a relationship. But yeah, I'd cry, and I think I wrote a letter to him one time. I didn't send it to him. I didn't get to him. I don't have it now, but I do remember that. And like going up to like 21 years old, I think that's when I met my dad.
Yeah.
Again, so nothing from 4 to 21. No connection or nothing. I think my brother actually found him, started talking to him, and then yeah, he came into the picture. He came up here from Melbourne. He was living in Frankston in Melbourne at the time. Like he grew up all in Melbourne. So he came into our lives, and it was a bit of a rough start. So I kind of left all that to my brother and to gauging like what to accept from him being the boy and stuff like that. My older brother, you know, and being a man. So if Dom was happy to bring him in, I was all right then. But yeah, 1 year in, he was living with my brother and his family, and like he was just lying about who he was the whole time. Kind of matched everything Mum ever said, really. Even with drinking again too. Like he was, yeah. Just my brother like busted him like lying about everything. Like he screamed at him and was like told him to get out of the house before like he let loose and bloody hurt him real bad. So, like, yeah.
I can imagine Dom doing that too.
Yeah, he was basically like, you need to get, I'm going to kill ya, basically, because once he clicks, you know, he clicks, my brother. So that was that for 6 years. And then my brother got in contact with him again, and now he's back in our lives. A lot different than that first round. Still hard to get my head around sometimes because I don't know.
I think that comes down to like when someone breaks your trust, it's really hard to trust them again.
Yeah, I just feel like your first chance having to be with your kids and you put that foot forward, that shit forward, is what your first chance. Like you chose that for your first go to have your relationship with your family, and then 6 years later you're meant to be so different.
But I think like it's a stained memory.
Yeah.
So like it's like you'll always be cautious for the rest of your life because of that stained memory.
Yeah, it's just I think it's just because like of all the ways you decided to portray your first self to your grown children, you chose that one, that lying and stuff. So it's like 6 years later. Yeah, it's been 6 years. I guess people can change in ways, but I'm just like,
I feel like your dad's a good person now. Like I've obviously met him, but like I'm normally good at reading like people's like vibe and who they are.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I'm a really good person at that, and I do believe that like it not necessarily he's changed because he changed. I think and feel that the people in his life have influenced him, like his wife and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. He
And you know what? I feel like before you say anything, I feel like from my own perspective on like who I was and who I've changed into, people change by their environment. Like you could be, and I know there's a saying that's like leopards don't change their spots or whatever it is, but I feel like if you surround yourself with the right people, even if you are a bad person, you soon, if you're smart enough and realize what you've done, you're soon enough to change your spots.
Like if you wanted enough.
If you wanted
Yeah,
enough.
yeah, I get you. More in that environmental influence, more so. Well, yeah, like he came back into our lives, and again, I left it up to my brother to engage in that. So, and he got, met a lady in church, and got married pretty soon after, and yeah, she's awesome. Like, you met her, right?
Yeah. We went to a house for Christmas.
Yeah, that's right. She's super lovely. Like, and the vibes of her and the energy of her is always very very mummy and loving and like super super nice.
Maybe
and
that's just what
I can imagine why my dad would have connected with her very fast.
But I just feel like that might have been something that your father needed to
Yeah.
bring the right person out of him. Because,
Awesome.
like, as much as, like, people burn people and do whatever, like, I grew up and I probably burned a lot of people in my 20s. I can openly admit that. I probably shat on a lot of people, burn a lot of friends, burn a lot of connections with a lot of people. But when I hit 30, I met the right people and then I changed into
Yeah.
a better person. So, like, I can't be the person to judge people who haven't changed yet. Some people meet the right people that change their life. Other people don't get lucky enough to do that.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a good way to think of it, always having that little bit of faith in everyone.
Yeah.
Um,
I always give someone the benefit of the doubt until they burn me.
Yeah.
So
as like trust till you have reason not to.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because like I know there's been people that have told other people not to trust me, and then those people have trusted me and been like, I don't know what they're talking about.
Based on that person's experience with you, but everyone is different with everyone, right?
Yeah.
Like completely. Like if people tell me they have an issue with someone and all these experiences, like I'm not one to be like, okay, I'll cut you off because they said so. I'm like, yeah, well, I'll see for myself.
But it's like when we went for Mother's Day to your mum's house, and like I'm a deep conversation person, and you know that because I talk to you all the time about stuff, and I like sitting and talk to your mum, and everybody else thinks that your mum was bothering me, but me and your mum were in like a hectic, deep conversation, and I like it because your mum's a deep person, and I enjoy that. It's like stuff like that sparks like dopamine in me. Like for example, today, like someone's at our house, like the owner of our house is here. He's cleaning the house, cleaning up some stuff and like polishing the back of the boards, and his wife and him are here. And I like sat out there for like 3 hours talking to him while I should have been in here working, but I got into a really deep conversation with them, and they were telling me about their lives and their struggles to get what they did and to buy this house and to buy the other house and their kids and everything. And I was like, I love conversations like that. I couldn't leave the conversation because I was really intrigued about their life and their experiences, and I can learn from those things and I can grow to understand people on a deeper level.
Yeah. It's really cool. Like, I enjoy it too. Like, it's really cool to just get to know people's story. Not to judge it, not to be whatever. Literally, like, I just get like to know how people came to be who they are today, good or bad.
Yeah.
And not to make me think, oh, I don't want to talk to that person.
Yeah.
Anything like that, nothing. Literally just because it's like, interesting.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. I just like to know people, get to know people's stories. And that's like why we're doing this right now too.
Yeah, for sure. So where did powerlifting come into all of this?
Yeah, okay, so if I go back to, all right, so a really big turning point in my life with growing up. I got to 17. I stood at the front of that house in Woodridge and I was talking to myself, and I said to myself, so, all right, there's two options here. I can, by this stage I'd been working in school, all this sort of stuff, and having to give mum all my money, plus she was getting my Centrelink money that they used to give back then. I was like, I'm not getting nowhere. So I stood at the front of the house and I'm like, all right, so I can go down the same path that I grew up with, which is a rough one, but it's still the easier one because it's what I've seen with the shitty relationships probably and all these shitty choices and moving around and keep doing all of the crap. Or I can choose a different path. which is the unknown. That's why it's the harder one. It's the new one. It's like doing something you haven't done. Like you don't know what that is. So I chose that path. And I moved out the next day, and I never moved back. And, you know, over time, Mum's lived with me a few times over the years. But, yeah, I never moved back. And after a few years, I ended up I always had a little bit of puppy fat on me, you know, over the years. But after a little bit, ended up being like 120 kilos. But I don't know how it sort of happened. I didn't have kids or nothing by that stage. It just something that sort of happened. I was working at Macca's and 100 racks. It doesn't help.
Yeah, but the thing
One nugget for you.
Let's talk about fast food, working fast food. I was like a KFC kid, so I know how it is. But the difference between me and you was I used to get stoned and go to work and then eat KFC while I was working.
I was in a relationship with someone for a few years, that little young relationship I reckon that we all have. So from 16 to like 20, we lived in a house together, like had a little rental together after moving out of his parents and stuff like that. And he was into soccer, so he'd been playing soccer since he was 5 years old and been doing that. He still does it now. Like, yeah, it's just what he was doing. So I would go and watch all his games, all the training and all that stuff with him, and then eat the food when he was starving after, but I just didn't do the exercise bit. So I was working in childcare at that time, and I just kept getting to these points where I was looking at myself in the mirror.
A nugget for you, one nugget for me, for the kids, eh?
Yeah. We also had this little lolly jar. Like, I love lollies, like Allen's lollies. Not even Allen's, just those lollies, like just lollies, yep.
You're a fiend for lollies as much as me.
So we had these little, like, lolly jar in the cupboard that was easy access, like you get at the lolly shops where you just had the little flap at the front. It was just too easy when you're peckish. That was not helpful. So anyway, I got to this point where at least once a month I'd look at myself in the mirror. My 120 kilos by that stage is kind of just crept up there. My boyfriend at the time, he didn't care at all. There was none of that, which, you know, is really nice of him. But yeah, I would
cushion for the pushing.
That's what they say. But yeah, I would look at myself in a mirror and I would cry just looking at myself because I hated what I saw and I was sick of doing that at least once a month. And I went through these really bad phases. Like, haven't really told many people, but like, I would even end up like bulimic, making myself vomit my food up because, you know, I didn't know how to do anything at that point in the sense of exercise and stuff. It was all like too hard and like lots of things to work out. I didn't have any confidence to ask anyone for help. Lots of things like that. But I would sign up to a gym, talk to my friends and ask them, you know, come, let's get into it. Let's go to the gym. But I needed people to come with me because I was too ashamed to go by myself. I just felt like everyone was looking at me like, what's she doing here? You know, like she's past the rescue side sort of thing. And I couldn't ask personal trainers for help or nothing like that. So I signed up to a gym and then I signed up to another one, like a different gym each year for 3 years in a row. Went to them once or twice, but I basically just paid for them for nothing. And my friends, you know, they were busy and they always had something going on. And so I was just waiting for them, but that was never going to happen. So one day I looked in the mirror and I got sick and tired of being sick and tired with myself. I finally made the break and I started at a women's only gym in Kingston behind the Trano down there.
Was that like Fern?
Nah, it was Lifestyle. They just had a separate section. They just had a girls only like full building. Wasn't even connected to the one that's in Kingston now, on the corner of Queens Road and Kingston Road. So just started down there. They just had heaps of cardio machines and they had like your resistant bikes. They did like the groups basically, like your little weightlifting group thing, like all that sort of stuff. So that's how I started. I started with the cardio. There was quite a few like larger size girls there. I guess it made me feel a bit better.
You feel a bit
because I was there by myself and I broke away from that idea of waiting for my friends to come with me. But yeah, I felt like I fitted in with the crowd that was there in the sizes, so it sort of worked for me a bit. So I started with just lots of cardio and doing those like little weightlifting classes and stuff like that. I can't remember what they're even called. They still do them nowadays, but just like lighter stuff. And I just started doing that. Started losing some weight, and after a little while there, they closed down that gym.
Not true.
They moved the ladies only section to the one on the corner of Kingston and Queens Road, so it's still there now. They made it a section there, so I had to sort of move up to there. I wasn't going to go to a new gym because it took me long enough to settle with one to start with. So then I got into there, started getting a little bit into weights or whatnot, but like I was doing this all on my own, so I was just all these trial and error by myself because, again, had no confidence to go and ask for help at all. But I started looking into things. I did a lot of study on bodybuilding.com.
Yeah, but I think that's where everybody started.
I know, I've heard it a lot, to be honest. I'm like,
yes.
I
I never started there, but I hear a lot of people's stories.
Yeah.
Everyone that's come on my previous podcast has been like, I started at body.com and I never made it to that phase at all because I didn't start powerlifting until I was 30. But I've been to the gym since I was like 20.
Yeah.
But majority of it was just like, some strength and conditioning for fighting. So
So
I don't even think most of my coaches who did fighting knew what they were doing in the gym. So they knew how to fight and how to teach fighting, but like resistance training was like just, hey, do this, and it was just a couple of dumbbells or whatnot. But bodybuilder.com's one thing that like rings a bell when people talk about like any.
Well, yeah, I guess you probably didn't jump on it because you had a bit of that sporty stuff going on a little bit behind you. I had nothing. I didn't come from doing sport, nothing at all. Like, I did a little bit of inter-school sport at school, like soccer, but I didn't know all the rules. I just stood in defence in front of the goalie, and they would kick me the ball, and I would smash it down the other end. I would just one kick, boot it, and then that was my job. And then a little bit of that in netball as well, in goal defence, because I was tall, just stood there keeping the ball out of there. And then other than that, whenever there was free time playing in the gym for PE class, I remember pushing all of the weights on the cable leg press. And the boys are like, how'd you do that? I was like, I don't know. So like, do it again. I was like, all right. And also I used to arm wrestle the boys at school, which was fun. But that makes a lot more sense as to where I am now when I think about like sports and stuff like that within school. I'm like, that's why I like leg press all that, because I have a lot of muscle. I just didn't realise back then. But anyway, going back to... Do
you know how badass I was as a kid?
What?
I had
Which part?
in my bedroom, next to my bed, a bench press with a leg extension on the end of it.
Oh, yeah, that's old school as those things. Oh, my God. You can still buy them now in that complete gym, basically.
Yeah. Like, that's how gangster I was as a kid in my bedroom.
Oh, my gosh.
Me sitting there, like, pumping my weights in my bedroom, like, thinking I was jacked, and I'm probably benching, like, 30 kilos.
Oh, gotta start somewhere.
Yeah.
But, so I just self-educated myself for 3 years. In 3 years, I lost 40 kilos, and that was pretty much doing it all on my own. Lots of bodybuilding.com things. I didn't follow full programs off there. I just would just look up stuff and read articles and things like that, and just whatever I had to do. I wasn't doing bench press and all that sort of stuff. I was doing lots of cardio.
When I first went to the gym with my mates, I was 27. This was after fighting stopped.
Yeah.
Oh, 27? No, sorry. This was before fighting. It would have been around... So I obviously started fighting when I was 22, but I had a bit of a break there where I didn't train, and I went to a different gym afterwards in between.
Yeah.
And it was about a year I trained with a bunch of boys. They were all like 20. They were all hardcore kids. We were all like going to band shows and that. And it was when I first moved up here. And we all used to go to the gym, like, actually. And there was me, Jesse, Josiah. Josiah's actually well-known in powerlifting, but he used to be a good friend of mine. And there was a bunch of other boys, like, and we all meet at, like, it wasn't Redcliffe. No, sorry. It was over at Cleveland Healthworks.
Yeah.
Every 4 times a week, we'd all go there and train together, and they'd be like, I just remember it, and it's a clear bro training. Like, it'd be bench day twice a week, no one would turn up for leg day, and then there'd be deadlift day. And no one would squat because everyone was scared of squatting. And I benched my first 100 kilos there, and I thought it was like the best ever. But
see, that's where that 30 kilo bench press in your room showed up.
Yeah. Look, it was, thinking of it now, it was one of the best times.
Yeah.
We used to go there, train, and then we'd go to Hog's Breath and just slam like a steak. And back in those days, it was
fries.
like, man, get those fucking steak and chips and eat fucking protein. Like, we'd all go to the sup store together and buy all that what's got the most caffeine in it? What's got the most protein in it? Like, it's typical, bro, like
Bro lifting.
Yeah. And all my mates were like pretty fucking big. Like Jesse, one of my boys, and Josiah were pretty big. And then even one of the best memories of that was, like, obviously Jesse and Josiah were two of my good mates at that point. And Jesse's dad was a powerlifter. So Josiah's dad was a powerlifter. So when his dad used to come up from Sydney, his dad would come and train with us. His dad was big ass, man. So we'd be all like in the gym with Jesse and like Josiah's dad pumping weights and stuff. It was pretty cool, like in that, yeah. But
just with like how like on my journey up to like powerlifting, I was just pumping out things in that like girls only section, doing or whatever I could find online, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, lost 40 kilos. Along the way, I had people coming up to me saying, "Oh my God, I've seen you like, or your progress, like you're such an inspiration," which I thought was insane because like my self-esteem was still so low,
Yeah.
But anyway, I started doing a little bit of weightlifting, not SBD at all, but did get one personal trainer there. His name's Mark. He has a gym called Fit For You nowadays, I think.
Oh, true.
Yeah, he helped me a little bit there. Couple of sessions in that. Helped me a little bit with squat and stuff like that. And then after a little while, I realised I was doing all right with weights, and basically that I was probably a bit stronger than most of the girls around. And this thing happened, and by the stages at Browns Plains Lifestyle, this thing happened. So I walked into I was training in the mixed area now. I got enough confidence in myself to train in the mixed area. Stepped out of the women's only section because the weights weren't enough in there, of course. They don't have a lot going on there. They don't have bench press in there, just dumbbells and leg press and all machines.
Do they have a good girl, bad girl machine there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I've just learnt the name of that. I was like, my God. But yeah, they did have that. But lots of just cable machines, a Smith machine, stuff like that. So I grew out of that pretty quick.
The good girl, bad girl machine was broken at Worlds tonight. So that's a future complaint to Worlds.
But so I've ended up in the in the mixed section down in the Browns Plains, and then so this really cool thing happened. Like I was going in there for bench press. I've gone in there. There's this chick doing bench press. She did one rep of, I don't know what it was, maybe 75, 80 kilos. Whatever it was, I thought it was insane. I've walked in there, I've seen her do that. She did one rep and then disappeared. And to this day, I swear to God, I'm like, did that even happen? Because that influenced me so much. I was just like,
how heavy was it?
I want to do that. I think it was just like 70 or 80 kilos. But whatever it was, it just really like stuck with me. I was like, that's so cool. I want to do that. But I never saw her again. And I feel like no one else saw her. It was weird. But it was meant for me. I don't know. Anyway, that day, I was doing bench, and a couple of the guys that went to that gym, they were sort of standing a little bit away, and I was eavesdropping. And I was talking about not bench press, sorry, powerlifting. We hadn't really heard of it by this stage. And I was like, whatever that is, that sounds good. You don't have to be half naked on stage, all juicy and oily and stuff.
Nothing wrong with being juicy, just
nothing wrong with that at all. But in my low self-esteem, I was just thinking I ain't doing that. But so that sounded cool, and I liked that you had to be strong and you have to show what you have been training for this time on the stage, and you go out there and do what you've been training. And so around then, we were just about to move to Melbourne. So I said to myself, right, when I move to Melbourne, I'm not going to any other gym except a powerlifting gym. And that's what I did.
What gym did you join?
So I joined Strength HQ with Robbie Smith.
Yep.
And I was with him for 5 years, solid 5 years. I joined him and my squat was like 90 kilos, I reckon. Within like the first week there, went to 100 kilos. Couldn't even squat with the belt because it just felt weird, so I had to learn all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, definitely learnt heaps and grew heaps with Robbie. And they had a really cool community down there too, and Emma, his wife, like, super awesome people. They've helped me in so many ways all over that time with them, like, really good friends, and, just heaps of gratitude for them. And really cool gym, really cool people, like, yeah, absolutely loved it down there. And, yeah, moving forward, when we moved up and down from Melbourne a couple of times, still stuck with Robbie, like, even online for a bit there. And then...
What did you achieve in that time with Robbie?
Oh, yeah, so my first year of powerlifting, so I think I started with him 2017, and then my first competition started 2018. I did February was my first APL comp up on the Gold Coast when they used to be at the PCYC there at Ashmore.
Yep.
It's like in a basketball type of stadium thing. It's hot as. It was raining, it was muggy, it was February up here. Like hot, sweaty, like gross. So I did my first competition and...
Everyone knows that if you're going to compete in Queensland, it's always in September or August.
Yeah. Well, we were doing a February one, and that was a qualifier for the Anzac one that we used to do with New Zealand yearly with APL back then when John Gabriel ran it after rescuing it from the previous owner of the federation. So I did my first competition there. I missed so many calls. I'm pretty sure I bombed my bench press. Like I think
Never got one.
Bombed, yeah, because of the calls. I don't remember what numbers I was doing. Anyway, they still invited me to go to New Zealand that year, which was my next competition. So I did that one. Then my next competition was in New Zealand and flew over there. Just for 2 nights. One of my best friends, Zelka, she came over with me. It felt like a pretty cool opportunity. So I made the most of that, made sure we went there. I was already known for the girl that doesn't know her calls, basically. The boys giving me some shit there. But went into that competition and made a name for myself from there, I guess. Like, totally turned that around. Got gold overall and second overall and gold for my weight class. Yeah, because so I came first and second, broke some national records in that one as well. So that was a much better turnaround, and everyone was pretty surprised by that. Then same year, I moved on to do. I think I did nationals that year as well. Pretty sure I placed in that one as well. This is going back a while, so it's a bit hard to remember, but I'm pretty sure I placed in that one too. That gave me an invitation to Worlds, and I was invited to Vegas, yeah, all in the 1 year, so it's pretty crazy. And I was like, this is mental. I've never in my life thought I'd even go overseas, and I thought New Zealand was a massive thing, let alone Vegas. So had to take that for what it was and just do whatever I could to get over there. So that was 2 months notice between, qualifying for that and accepting it and realising I'm like, shit, this is happening. So pretty sure I even did a GoFundMe page to source money for that, because I was like, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Like, it has to happen. So scraped everything up, got the money together and went over there for 8 days. We stayed at the Golden Nugget Casino in Old Vegas and Fairmont Street. Spent a lot of time there. Spent 5 days in Vegas, actually. Didn't do a whole lot of travelling around because I really wanted to watch the other days of the competition. It went for 3 or 4 days. So ended up placing second at World Championships in Vegas too. So in my first year of competing.
Your lucky number.
Yeah, shut up. But shout out to Thomas as well, because he was there with me. Robbie couldn't make it over there, but Thomas was there with a few athletes from APL there too. Took me under his wing a little bit with handling me at that, which was pretty cool. He was like, oh, I can tell you're pretty strong. I hadn't really seen any of my lifts before that, but just based on my warm-ups, he sort of said, yeah, you're a strong girl, so Got through my squats, my bench. I don't remember my numbers. But coming into the deadlifts after my second attempt, Thomas said to me, I'll choose your third one, and didn't tell me what it was. I was going in there with a plan from me and Robbie speaking. I was going to probably go for around 175 or something at my top lift. Don't remember what I ended up doing for my second one, but come to the third one, got it done, locked it out. If you look back at those videos, that was terrible. My form is horrible, like it's so ugly. But anyway, we got it done, and it ended up getting my 180 kilos that day. But yeah, didn't know the whole time till I got it done, which was pretty cool that Thomas like pushed that on me.
What body weight were you back then?
So it was under 90. So I weighed in at that's another story in itself. Like I was so half-assed on my diet and everything for a good 4 months leading into that. I reckon I put myself down to 1,600 calories for 6 weeks before that. I told Thomas before I got on the platform, and he's like, "What the hell? Like I don't know how you're here." Yeah. And I like got on the scales when I weighed in, and I travelled and everything, of course.
And that makes him more inflammation, so it makes it even worse.
Yeah. So weighed in at like 88.8. That's pretty much the number I'm always at when I'm under 90. Yeah. Weighed in 88.8, and I was like, thank God. And all the Americans there just like cracking up laughing. But yeah, I still went out and I went 9 for 9 on 1,600 calories. Don't do that at home, guys. Not good advice. But yeah, still got it done, placed, which was incredible experience, and all in my first year of lifting, and pretty much stuck with it since. I've also had babies along the way.
What happened after Worlds?
What happened after Worlds? I don't know. Just kept pretty much just continuously going back to back with comps, to be honest. So.
Yeah. So when you were at Worlds, did you have Cadence then? Or?
No. So Cadence is nearly 3 years old. So I did have my son Christian by that stage. So before I got into powerlifting, I had Christian back when I was 23. 2014, he was born. And I was in the gym and had just lost all this weight, so it made me really scared about a pregnancy, as like I was planning. I planned that pregnancy, of course. Yeah. But it made me nervous about the weight gain. But thankfully, because I put 3 years into building a lifestyle change, whether it was the right way or not around my weight loss and my mentality around it, I was able to carry that through with losing the weight. I put on 20 kilos in that pregnancy. I still trained a little bit when I could, but there was some issues there. And being my first pregnancy, it scared me a little bit, so I stopped training. But I put on 20 kilos, which isn't too bad for a pregnancy. Lost that within 9 months before I got married. And then, he had come to most of my competitions, unless they were international. So got lots of pictures with him, like doing those whole like ones where your tents and your kid in front of your tents is normally with their dad. Yeah. But that's pretty cool. So he's been there along the way a lot, which is awesome, and still now like he's interested in it and always wants to train and asks about wanting to train.
It doesn't really matter if that photo is with mum or dad, because mum's stronger than dad.
But yeah, so I've just kept up with the powerlifting the whole time, and then going forward to 2019, I did my last competition for the year, still in the same weight class, and then I was going for 100. I ended up with a fourth attempt deadlift at 185 kilos, but just hitched it at the top and like passed out for a few seconds. Now still a bit of a passer outer.
It's real funny because like in your recent events, you like do your second and almost pass out, and then you do your top and you're sweet. Yeah,
weird. So weird. So I feel like I've been trying to hit that 185 for years, right? Because after that competition 2019, then COVID started in March the next year, 2020, and January 2020, I found out I was pregnant with Cadence, which was super exciting because I had been trying for a while, sort of gauging it around my lifting, because I also didn't want it to affect these big opportunities that I was getting, which were unexpected. But yeah, 6.5 years later, after my son, fell pregnant with her, just in time for COVID. I'd also had lined up that had been invited to Pro Raw for the second time by that stage. First time I didn't get in there. Didn't it just we declined the invitation at that point. But the second time I was going to go there, but got cancelled because of COVID, and I was pregnant anyway, so that kind of worked out. I gained 25 kilos with her. I still tried to train as much as I could while pregnant with her, but the gyms were closed most of the time, especially being in Melbourne at that stage, so heaps of lockdown time. I did whatever I could with my stuff, my little things that I had at home, and borrowed some equipment from Robbie from the gym for a bit there before I had to turn that space into a nursery. And yeah, I think it took about 10 to 12 months to lose the weight from her. But then I finally cracked that 185 at Pro Raw this year, which was insane because, yeah, it literally feels like it took me years to get that just amongst everything. I'm pretty hard on myself. Obviously, I had a child and COVID in between. But, yeah.
I remember when I first met you at your first competition and you just come back from having the baby and, like, you had no one to handle you and I was handling you because we'd spoke previously on, like, socials before. And you're like, do your first attempts, and I'm like, well, that was easy. And then you do seconds, and I'm like, well, that was easy. And then you're like, what do you reckon I got? I remember on your deadlift, and you're like, oh, yeah, maybe 135. And I'm like, nah, you got 142 easy. And you did 140 and 2, and I was like, you could have put like 150 on there.
Yeah.
And, like, it was so, like, easy.
Yeah, I know.
Then what, you went to nationals? And
I know I was coming into that competition, like, that was not the Easter that just went, the one before.
Yeah.
And I knew I was coming back in as a very conservative competition, keeping numbers pretty easy. So, yeah, I remember finishing that competition. I still placed in that one.
Yeah, you got first or second? Pretty sure you got second.
I think I came second.
Yeah, because Ash came third.
Yeah. So I came second. I came first with deadlift only, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, I remember finishing that competition. I was a little bit devoed that I didn't push harder because I finished that feeling like I just did a gym session.
Yeah.
And I hate that. I want to feel cooked after any competition.
I
want to feel like I left it all on the platform. And that was the first time that I'd walked off like out of a competition feeling like I hadn't. So I was a little bit devoed, still like placed, but I was like, oh, you know.
I remember that next Tuesday when I wrap your knees and you tell me you can't breathe. So you went from that to nationals, and at nationals when you came on our team. So you joined River City.
Yeah. Yep.
And then, so what did you achieve at nationals that year when you started coaching with us?
Yeah, so I was on that big road of the grateful thing of muscle memory, which I was hoping was going to pull through, get my numbers back up as fast as I could. And I'm pretty sure at nationals I came first in my weight class.
Yeah, you came first.
Came first in my weight class, and at this stage we're doing under 100 kilos at this point because I was still had some of that weight on me.
I got a little bit of a story for that nationals too. So.
Oh yeah.
That was like. It was cool because Dee jumped on the team, and then there was someone that was inquiring with coaching with me as well at that same point that was Dee's competition. And me being me, I'm just so oblivious to everything until the form comes out, and then I go on and search everyone's names to see who my clients' competitions are. I had no idea at all, and she was messaging me, and she's like, I'm like, oh, what? She's like, oh, I'm looking for a new coach after nationals. I'm not happy with my current coach. And I was like, yeah, no worries, just let me know and, we'll do a consult and see if I'm the right coach for you. And anyway, I said, oh, what weight class are you competing in at nationals? And she's like, oh, one of your girls is in there. And I'm like, no, I don't. That's why I asked you. And she's like, oh, sure, you just want to know my numbers. And I'm like, not really. I'm just actually interested in what your numbers are because you're interested in coming to me for coaching. And she thought that I was just trying to, like, figure out what her numbers were for you. And I didn't even know that. Like, I didn't even know she was in your weight class. Anyhow, I told her your numbers at the point, and she said to me, oh, that's cute.
That's cute. Oh, that's right.
And I was like,
bloody hell.
You just fucked with the wrong dude. Like, don't fuck with my athletes or me and be a smart ass. Because, like, I grew up as a smart ass. I am still a smart ass, but I'm very conservative these days because I have a business.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's it. You're now on my enemy list. I'm like, done. So we got to comp, and I was like, D, it doesn't matter what you do, you got to beat this chick at nationals.
Here I am.
I don't
First
even
time
care.
doing a comp fully under your wing, and I'm just like, what's going on?
I'm like, I don't care what happens, how we do it,
Oh.
but you need to beat this chick because she said that your numbers are cute. And I said I wanted to see the back end of how cute they really are.
Yeah.
And literally, like, because I don't like people that think they're better than everybody else and they're just going to, like, kill it. So, anyway, we go into comp, D squats. I think you squatted 150, was it?
No, I think it might have been
45?
maybe even 147.
I'm pretty sure she squatted more than you. Like, she squatted, like, higher numbers than you. And
oh, yeah, she had a big squat. She got a big
I'm
squat.
pretty sure she
Still
squatted
does.
157, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty cute. But yeah, she squatted that, and then you went into bench, and your bench was like 10 kilos heavier.
Yeah.
So by that point, you were like within 5 kilos, 2.5 kilos of each other. So D pulls her first deadlift. It evens it out pretty much, and they're like within 2.5 kilos. She pulls her second deadlift, and then D pulls hers, and she goes up and puts 2.5 kilos more than D on her deadlift. And I said to D, just stay and chill, and we're going to wait. And, like, she put 167 and we had 165 on there. I remember it clear as day. And I leaned over to one of my other athletes, Nick, and I said, hey, Nick, when it gets to 1 before this girl, go up to the board and tell them that you want 167. Thanks to Thomas, because I learnt this stuff from Thomas.
Sneaky.
Watching him over the years. Before I was even a coach, I learnt.
Yeah.
Like, used to watch Thomas do it at GPC meets. And I said, go change it to 167 to match her. And then I got one of my other athletes to stand in front of her coach to block the TV screen so he couldn't see that it changed.
I didn't even
Cheeky.
know that.
Yeah. Like, I got Dean and that to stand in front of him. And, like, so that happened, and then next minute they called up her name, and they didn't have time to check the gloss Brenner or anything in general to add up the numbers of what they actually needed for her to pull to win. So they just added 2.5 and went to 170, and you went to 167, and you end up pulling your deadlift, and then she went out and pulled hers, and you beat her by 2.5 kilos. And I was like,
playing the game.
Oh, it was the most, not just for like me, but for you as well. It was the most satisfying thing because I really dislike when people have this like persona and ego about how they think they're so good, and then they just get put back in their place. It's because like there's no place in this sport for selfish, like minded people. Like, you know, it's not a team sport, but within River City we built a team that supports each other, and anybody that's going to try and put shit on my team or anyone in my team, I'm going to come at you and I'm going to get you on the platform. Like, literally.
Platform, it tells all.
Yeah, it's happened a few times now. It happened last weekend.
True.
Again, with someone else.
At the Red Cliff deadlifts, so with that one, with Nationals, like, that person, like, she would have taken my numbers based on the comp that I did before that, thinking, like, they're just shitty-ass numbers, you know, not knowing my previous history and that I was on that muscle memory gain train. Yeah. And, you know, those numbers are coming up quick. Yeah. So, you know, proof is in the pudding. She was pretty disappointed after. She had a bit of a sook after that, actually, with her coach, so I heard. But, you know, it is what it is. But that was a pretty interesting time for me too, because all this time in the sport by that stage, good few years, you know, I had accomplished enough. I've got quite a few national records now, like over 20, not to boast. But, like, you know, just saying of my establishments in the sport already by the stage I come to you, I never really played the game. I've always just gone out there and put my best foot forward, and it's just come out all right. So that was pretty interesting for me, actually, as well, a little bit of that little, like, sneaky little stuff. But it was fun, actually. It was pretty fun. And I do well under pressure. Like, I am that kind of person that, like, you know, even, like, in school, leaving things to the last minute till it has to be done to be due for an assignment, whatever it is. Like, So I do well under pressure, and I guess that gave me that little bit of that extra giddy. Like, it was like, oh yeah, all right, let's do this.
Yeah.
So that was pretty fun. Yeah, I did like that. And now, yeah, I can see that's just how you roll, but it works for me. Like, yeah, like I keep saying, it's fun.
It's one of my favourite parts about being a coach is that...
I definitely leave that part to you, but I'm like, I'm just here to lift the stuff. You can
I
deal with all that.
Yeah, but I wouldn't put that on someone's...
If you didn't think so.
Didn't think.
Yeah,
it's a similar thing that happened to Pro Raw this with Jack.
Yeah, for sure.
So, same thing, like pulled for the win. I wouldn't have put that amount of weight on his deadlift if I didn't think he would pull it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he ended up winning
Yeah.
and beating the guy by 5 kilos as well. So, at the end of the day, like, that's my favourite part because, you know, my belief is in the person that they can do it, and I haven't had someone let me down yet. So
but that's the thing, you know, like...
if it wasn't there, I wouldn't put it on there. I'd just go for that smaller PB and take second place.
Yeah, at least they're still achieving something they wanted for. If they didn't have quite that end, like, win or whatnot, they still come and get a PB and there's still something to be happy about.
Yeah.
But, like, that's the thing. You do see that happen amongst the sport too, actually. Like, people get a little bit more pig-headed around something and they will pump their numbers up to a number that's probably not going to be achievable. And, you know, they go out there and they lose it and they don't, you know, they can come out with a PB or a win or anything because they're getting that little bit too pig-headed around the whole process of, like, that competition little part there.
I just think that sometimes it's better to take that smaller jump and get that PB than it is to try and pull for the win and not get it at all.
If it's definitely not going to be something that's within them, right? And like you said, you know your athletes enough and you can be confident in what your choices are.
I knew you already pulled 160 in prep that time, and I was like, what, 7 kilos?
Yeah.
Not much. And the way you pull, the way I've learnt you pulled, whatever you pull in prep, you've got 10 kilos more. My comp. It's happened the last 3 comps.
Yeah. It's a funny thing, right? Like, it's always been the way. So, like, since I first started competing, I have been... It's like my deadlifts always fall apart a good few weeks beforehand. And then I used to get nervous around it, but now it just seems to be what happens. Like, it's just peaking. You know, you're getting tired, everything's getting heavy, all that sort of stuff. My deadlifts seem to fall apart a little bit, and then come to the platform, everything comes back together. Like, the platform is just my zone. Like, I've said it in some of my posts and stuff like that before, but I don't know. I just feel like my best self when I'm on the platform in so many ways.
Yeah.
Especially because of how far I've come with my, like, weight and my mentality around that from back then, where I've just thought of myself so low based on my appearance. As much as everyone will say, but you're beautiful and you're like a big beautiful and all this sort of stuff, like, yeah, that's all cool, but like someone that would definitely not want to tell anybody how much I weighed, and realizing when I came into powerlifting that I had to let go of that because it's up there on the board. Like, straight away, I didn't tell anyone that I had reservations around that because I had no choice. It had to be there. That's what it was.
Just challenge it.
Yeah, so now to come this far and then be like, I don't care what people think my weight is. Like, I don't, like,
as long as you're
I'm a
happy
solid girl. I never wanted to be skinny. I want to be strong and healthy and, like, love these thighs now. Like, back then, you know, I was like, oh, my freaking legs so fat, whatever. I'm like, yeah, I'll crush you with these things. So let's go. You know, all these ways of progress.
But that's good. Like,
all these things, yeah.
And when I look at it now, you've achieved so much in powerlifting. Like, you won nationals 3 years in a row. One of them was with me. You came second this year to some other chick that was just a beast.
Yeah.
You came second at Pro Raw with us. You came second at Worlds with River City.
My second Pro Raw. My second Worlds with you. Yeah.
You won numerous local competitions.
I've actually gained a few records while I've been with you too on national records.
And so, like, we've taken your deadlift from like that 140 up to now 192.5.
If you're going off that first comp, like
if you go off like the first comp,
my previous before like COVID, my PB was 182.5, but even still,
we're still taking up 10
absolutely,
kilos. But it's not like you came to me with a 182.5 kilo deadlift. You came to me with a 140 deadlift. So it's like, even if you do have muscle memory and you haven't trained properly that heavy for so long, you've still got to build back up there. It doesn't just come back like that, you know what I mean? You still had to do the work to get back there and build that back, and it showed over the comps that you did. Like, you didn't get back to that 185 until, what, last year? Or this year, at the start
March,
of the year?
yeah.
Yeah, Pro Raw. So
Finally cracked it on the platform.
yeah, but that's what I mean. So it's taking you 12 months, 18 months to get back there. And then finally you pulled 190 at Nationals this year, and then you did a deadlift meet 2 weeks later and pulled 192. So
yeah, so most recently the biggest thing for me has been like I've said, I felt like I'm trying to go in for that 185 for so long, and then I finally hit it at Pro Raw, and it was like such a cool thing to finally achieve. And also the podium at Pro Raw, like that alone is being invited is enough. I was just excited for that, let alone podium. Like I definitely didn't go into it thinking like, oh, I'm going to podium stuff. When you mentioned that was a possibility, I was like, yeah, okay, let that go straight over my head. Like the first time I got invited to Worlds, like for Vegas, I was like, yeah, as if like they were telling me this could be a possibility. I was like, yeah, whatever, as if. The same thing with Pro Raw when you said I could podium. I was like, surely not. But, you know, it is what it is. I came out with that, and I finally cracked that 185, which is an amazing feeling. And then to think that for something that I was trying and felt like it was going for so long, to now have broken that as well within 3 months of it.
yeah,
That it's like I still like I'm just like how like when you first even like said 190, I was like, what? I'm so used to being stuck on that 185, and to be like within a few months of it, even thinking about doing 190, I was like, what the hell?
The thing is too, like, cut it short too. You pulled 190 on your third, and the plates fell off at Nationals.
Oh, yeah.
And then you went back out like literally like 5 people later and pulled it again. And you failed it a week prior to that in the gym.
In the gym, yeah. You know what, like that, the way I failed it in the gym a week before, like I said about my lifts breaking down sort of just before comp, as I do with fatigue and everything, and being after work when I always test these maxes. I was so close to it, so I was like, nah, I've got this in Nationals. I went into Nationals with numbers set in my head, knowing what I wanted that day. Like, basically not caring about bench. I only did 80 there because I gassed myself on squats, but I finally took that 160, got it. Missed 85 twice on bench, only finished with 80, even though 85 is an easy number for me. But like I said, gassed it in squat, which is what we wanted. And then, yeah, came through with that 190 on deadlifts, which is what I really wanted as well. So
430 total.
430, yeah. And I came second in my weight class, even though I was probably a good 9 kilos lighter than a lot of the girls in that class, because I originally wasn't going to do Nationals. So, because I had dropped a weight class and I had to re-qualify, and I wasn't going to do it because there wasn't any Worlds this year. But
shout out to Dan from APL for
Twist and Mile. Send me out the end blind anyway, as much as I tried to pull out of it, but, you know.
But yeah, so you've achieved a lot, and now with on the back end of this achievement, you're now a coach for River City Barbell. So you're our female strength coach, working with both female and male clients.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so like,
which I'm so happy for. Like, you know, obviously I've been in some sort of in the fitness industry for such a long time now. I've kind of been through it all in so many ways, and I mostly think that I can appeal to people's emotional sides around so many levels around it, with like from babies to, you know, the weight, the progress, the weight, the muscles, like all the things. So, but yeah, it's been such a burning passion in me just to help people do the same things, whether it is to get on the platform or just to feel good about themselves and feel strong and empowered. Yeah, I'm so happy to finally be taking the steps in a direction that I feel like I've always needed to do.
Yeah, so if anybody wants to work with Dee, just contact us either on Instagram, or you can message Dee on her Instagram or Facebook, or you can go in the link in the bio and book a call with her. And she has 2 levels of coaching, which you'll be able to see on our page. And if you want to read a bit more about Dee, there's a little bit of a write-up too on the page about who she is. And other than that, I think that's where we'll end your intro.
Yay, awesome.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Good chat. Cheers.
Thank you for listening in to the River City Unlimited podcast. To hear future episodes, please subscribe to our podcast. And we would really appreciate it if you shared the podcast on your social media story and tagged River City Barbell. If you could also head over and give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast and Spotify, that would be really appreciated. For all coaching inquiries, please go to the link in our show notes or head over to our social media at rivercitybarbell.aus on Instagram or River City Barbell on Facebook. Thanks for tuning into the episodes, and I hope you enjoy future episodes.